If you're interested in Bitcoin, then keep listening. If you're not interested, then you switch off now, because that's not me talking about Bitcoin. But I want to take you back. I started this mentoring program back in basically the beginning of this year, and it was focused on Amazon and e-commerce and how I was able to create wealth through that. And I guess in these videos for the last few months, I've been talking more and more about Bitcoin. I guess it's because I'm a big believer of Bitcoin. I believe it's freedom without going down a huge rabbit hole, and think it's imperative that everybody gets some. You cannot have no exposure to Bitcoin. Yeah, don't believe me? Go do your own research. And so what's happened now through this mentoring program that I now do is I get more and more questions now about Bitcoin than pretty much anything else. Like less questions about Amazon and e-commerce and more about Bitcoin. And I just started thinking, why is that the case? Now, is it because I think about Bitcoin is probably easier in the sense of once you've committed to this is the right investment vehicle for me to help escape the matrix, then it's pretty easy in the sense that you don't have to do anything. You just buy it and hold it. That's pretty much it. Whereas I guess Amazon and e-commerce is going to require you to start a business if you don't buy an existing one, and could fail. That's the reality. You could start, and I guess, when I went into Amazon for the very first time, my first product didn't work out, but I just stuck with it, and then eventually, it's turned out very, very well. But I guess that is probably the dilemma with a lot of people. It's like they take the risk of starting or buying an existing Amazon or e-commerce business without the guarantee of it producing cash. So I guess that's why people are thinking that, because people want, the path of least resistance, right? They want to if they could just buy into Bitcoin and just sit back, great. The problem with Bitcoin right now is that it doesn't produce any cash flow. So you can't just buy Bitcoin and then just live off 10% interest on it, for example, every year. Like you can right now buy into like a first mortgage fund, for example, and you could get 9-10% per annum, and it would be paid monthly to you. But you would have to have something significant. So for example, you have to have $5 million tied up in there to get $500,000 roughly a year in interest payments. And you could live off the $500,000 a year. Now that's gross, but most people aren't in that position. So therefore you've got to get out of this 9-to-5 matrix. That's the first goal. If you're in the 9-to-5 matrix, if you're a slave to the system there, you need to get out of that. And online business, yes, it could be risky, but do you want to stay the slave? This is the thing. And I can tell you, you don't. There was no way I would go back to being a slave ever again. And I just want that for you. I want you to be out of the 9-to-5 matrix and basically living life more on your own terms. And once you get to that stage where you're now producing an income, you don't have to do your 9-to-5 job anymore, then you can start focusing more on how can I grow my wealth. Now, is there a way to do both? And the answer is yes. This is something that's not widely spoken about, and that is that you could invest some of your superannuation, or let me say this, some or all of your superannuation into Bitcoin. And that way, if you're thinking, I want to be exposed to Bitcoin, but you don't have any savings per se, or you haven't escaped the 9-to-5 matrix yet, but you still want to have some money tied up in Bitcoin as exposure to Bitcoin, then superannuation could be the way to go. Now, how would you do that? You would have to go through the process of setting up a self-managed super fund and taking out some of the super and converting it over into Bitcoin. And there's a pathway to do that. And so what's interesting is that I've got all these people now reaching out to me wanting to know more about that than anything else. So what I did is I created this, I guess, the fundamentals of Bitcoin. I put it into my online program, and you can jump in there right now and have that education today. You just have to click on the link, come and join the community, and I can answer your questions there too. So have a think about that. Take care.